So in our original post, when we were talking about the tools that we use in our classroom, I spoke about Boom Learning, which are digital task cards. So this is what the overview looks like of Boom Learning. And so I purchased these several years back from Teacher Pay Teachers. And so you'll notice that a lot of, obviously these are the same person. So they are from the same person, which you can use the same person or you can use different people. You can find them on Teacher Pay Teacher, or you can go to the actual Boom Learning, and there is a store here. And so you can click on the store and it looks a lot like Teacher Pay Teacher, but these are digital task cards that are made for this particular website. If you want, you can buy into the system. I personally have a free version. All that free version does is makes me an account where it houses all my particular task cards. And then what I do is I go in and I create a link that my students are therefore linked to where these task cards are housed. The bad thing or the negative to this is the fact that none of my reports, none of the classes, none of the scores are kept by the program. So if my students do not take a screenshot at the final page, they do not get credit for it. So that there is a learning curve to that. I teach 8th grade, and so that was something that I had to harp on, and some of my students learned the hard way and had to redo the questions several times. However, what you do, so this is what I did earlier this week actually. So I was gone, had a doctor appointment on Monday, and so this is what I left for my students to do, which they are familiar with doing it. But what I do as a teacher is I come in, I don't use anything other than the prepping, because I want to see what my students are going to see, or the FastPen. I can't assign it because I do not have an account and my students don't have an account. I believe it's like $25 or $35 a year for you to have up to 200 student accounts where all the data would be stored here. I'm cheap and I don't pay it, so we run a Google Classroom, and so I post everything in my Google Classroom, and I just make sure that my students take a screenshot of their results page. So what I did, I came here, I made a FastPen. This is what the pen will look like. You can either clip it here or you can copy link, click the link, and then I go and I attach or link the link in Google Classroom. And then when my students see it, they can click on the little picture and it brings them to their particular Boom card set. And so if I want to look at the questions, I can click on it and it can either be prep mode or presentation mode. And it's just, I do the prep modes to kind of see what the questions look like. So this is what the questions look like. Up here tells you that there are 16 total questions. And so in order for them to get to the next question, they must have the correct answer. If they get the correct answer on the first try, then they get credit for it for their final end result. So let's say that they know that this answer is 13. Once they type it in, hit enter, it will give them a correct little symbol. If they get the correct symbol, clearly it went to 15 questions left, and the bar will progress as you finish your task cards. If they get it wrong, then it gives them a red box. They have to get it correct in order to see the next question. But in order to see the next question just means they get the next, they get to move on and they get to finish their cards. If they do not get it correct, or let's say they do get it correct, it will show that they got it correct. So it shows them like, yes, you were correct, but they do not get credit for that question in the end. So at the very end, they'll see how many questions. It'll say, congratulations, you got 12 correct. That is what I take their grade from. So I take 12 out of 16. That's the grade that's calculated. In order to get credit for the question correct, they must get it correct on the first attempt. But in order to move in and on in the program or on the task cards, they must get the question correct no matter what. So if they get stuck, if they don't know what they're doing, then they cannot move on, and therefore if they can't move on, then they don't finish the assignment. I allow my students to do it as many times as they want to. So my higher achiever students can do it 2 or 3 times if they choose, or my students who struggle and need the extra practice or need to look at it again, or whatever the case, they are allowed to do it again as many times as they want. The one drawback, aside from they must take a screenshot as their results, but the other downside is if they are working and they run out of time while in class, when they close it, it does not save their progress. So that is a big drawback for some of my students because they are slower workers or don't work at all. But ultimately, I tell them this, they're aware of this, they know this, that if they don't work and they don't get it done when they're in one setting, they need to write their work out. They need to show their work so they know exactly what questions, because the questions do not change. There's only 16 cards. They don't change. However, the order does. So every time they go back in, it's not like they can just memorize A, B, C, D as the first 4 answers. They have to know what they're doing. So if a student, it's very hard to cheat unless they're just writing every single answer and question down. It's very difficult to cheat from class to class because the order changes, the question order changes. And so students, even from attempt to attempt, they must know how to do it in order to get credit on the first try. So I do like these. It does force the kids to know what they're doing. It does force the kids to answer them correctly the first time. If they do not finish the first day or they don't finish in the first attempt, they again can do it again, but they will have to either start over. So if they get 12 questions done and they don't get those last 2, then unfortunately they're going to have to restart over if they close it out. So I highly encourage, if they're going to start the cards, that they finish them and get them done, and then make sure that they get that screenshot, or at least that's what I stress to my kids. I really do like them. I have used them for years. I continue to use the same cards. I have access to a few others, but I really do like these probably the best. And like I said, as you can see, they kind of range from, some have 16, some have 12, few have 20. The ones who have, this one has 12. So the ones that are 12 tend to be a little bit more involved. The ones that are 20 are a little bit faster or not quite as involved with the calculation. The 16, of course, that you could tell that they had to calculate those. So I really do like these. I think they're very beneficial. I've used them in station rotations. I've used them clearly whenever I have a sub and I'm out. I really do feel like they are an asset and a great tool to have for my classroom.